Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. To some of you and peace out to the rest of you. Black heart signing black in, shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. This being said, I want to thank LAR movement for reporting the observations that he's had about colorism. I was aware that your family's from Louisiana. I was not aware that you yourself were born in New Orleans. And from one Gulf Coast Creole to another, shout out, bro. I wasn't surprised to know that you were Creole. I know now, I did not know before, but I was not surprised when you said it in your video regarding colorism. But I'm glad that you pointed out some of the same misconceptions and shed some light on some of the same observations that I've noticed, because I mentioned it, but your subscriber base is far beyond mine. And like I said, the message is more important than the messenger, meaning what I say is more important than I am. Because what I want to do is give information. And I want to thank you for giving this information to a larger audience, because right now the Achilles heel of African Americans and black folks in the West in general is misconceptions. People just not knowing history and talking and going off without actually checking some of the facts. And the thing is that I've gotten used to being gaslighted and told that my observations are not correct. Now, as an adult on this channel, I'm hearing people say, facts, bro, facts, 100%, you spitting facts. But when I was younger and I noticed certain things that were done and I mentioned them, or I asked if anybody else saw them, instead of being simply told, no, I didn't see that, I would actually be gaslit. Like, no, nigga, you making this up. No, it ain't. That stuff ain't happened. No, man, what are you talking about? You know, it couldn't actually be true. So when another adult black man reports these, I'm glad that the message got out, the information. I am not so much relieved that now I am believed, because I put my name and face on here. I am relieved that black folks are going to clear up some misconceptions they had previously. Now that we got that out the way, there's a bit of information that I wanted to add to this, because a lot of us may not be aware. A lot of us are not aware. Colorism is a facet of white supremacy. It is an aspect of it. But I also want people to realize that the color bias or the anti-blackness did not start with white people as far as we can trace back. I had to do some historical research in grad school, and this is one of the things I found out. Before any records, written records that illustrate Europeans had a color prejudice towards darker skin, you find that India had a caste system in which white was on top and black was on the bottom. Today they try to say that it's about class and money, but in actuality it was about color, and you can prove it because the word in India for the caste system among the Hindus is Varna, and Varna means color. Colors were not used to symbolize different castes. That's not why. No, it was associated at its inception with skin color. That's it. That's all it was. Now, the native Indians, i.e. the Dravidians, probably did not come up with this. It doesn't make sense to think that they did. We know that this came about after the Aryans invaded and conquered the subcontinent. And to this day, the paler Indo-Aryans are the majority in the north and the Dravidians are the majority in the south, but the complexions are varied throughout the country, and even in Sri Lanka now at this point, another country. However, it started with color prejudice, but it was taken from the Aryans. Now, the Aryans came from Arya, which is now Iran. In between having the name Arya and Iran, it had the name Persia, but let's call it what it is. They went back to Iran in honor of Arya, which is where the Aryans came from, and they're considered to be the original whites. Believe that. So, this being said, it may very well be that White supremacy did not start with white Europeans, but rather with some Persians who were just merely white by comparison to other people that neighbored them. Now, we know Iranians can't go into Europe now and be accepted as white folks. We understand that. We get it. But you understand where I'm going with this. I think I've covered that enough. So I want us to understand that anti-blackness may be older than actual white folks' color prejudice and may not have started with them. Another thing I want you guys to realize is that polytheism is married to white supremacy. But that's a topic for another day, another recording. Next thing I want to clear up. And that's going to be about the perception that black women will excuse lesser masculinity in lighter skinned men. In reality, they will excuse lesser masculinity in white men. I don't see very many African American women pursuing men that are neither black nor white. That's one thing I don't see, and I don't see them in relationships with them. They're neither pursuing them nor are they pursued, from what I was able to see. What I do understand is that if that man is white, not light-skinned, but white, lesser masculinity is excused. If that man is black, but he's lighter-skinned, he has to be tough. He got to be the stereotypical macho. If he's going to get the same respect from her she's already out there giving to chocolate brothers. And I mean sexual validation, along with other forms of respect, obedience, and sexual validation. He simply cannot dominate with the same level of effort and ease. He's got to do more. And that's one thing I wanted people to keep in mind. Now, LAR movement, you mentioned how if he's lighter skinned, he could have he could even maybe have some weird styles and a few fingernails painted. And in California, I'm not really sure. I haven't been there since I was a kid. I do know that in the southeastern United States, i.e. where the Gulf Coast is located, that is not the case. If you were black or if you were Latino, if you were not white and you were light-skinned, you better have other hardcore verifiers that you are masculine and you ain't to be played with, and there ain't nobody gonna punk you. You better have these things on deck because it's gonna come into question even if she's not aware that she's doing it. She will shit test a lighter skinned non-white man more than she would a white guy. They don't crap test white dudes, I don't think. Either they're into white dudes or they're not. Ain't no games, though, from my understanding. Ain't no let me see what he's like, let me crap test him. I used to think that they would have done that a long time ago, but now what I come to understand is no. If they're not into white dudes, they ain't into them. But if they're into white dudes, ain't no crap testing. None of that. That makes it even worse. That means we're dealing with more selling out than what we thought we were. And now that we know that, this means that in actuality, they're just building the case for SYSBM and IBMOR more all the time. Despite what they've been saying, they're building the case, and they're actually building the case against B1. But the funny thing is the matriarchy and the gynocracy don't really have any allies except for the B1 men. But they're making the case against what these B1 men are calling for because, see, if she's being easier on specifically white dudes than she is on any other man, including black men, how are we going to sit up there and stay with her if she's showing loyalty not only to just not us, but to our opposite? I mean, it would make sense if she... you might be able to understand if she preferred Latin American men, Arab men. You might be able to. But when they show that it is either the negative stereotype of a black man or a white guy they would never have accepted if he was black, that pretty much tells you that the only one that's allowed to be himself is that white man. You got to be King Kong. You got to have them flying planes around you trying to shoot you down because they're that scared of you. You got to do all that. He, on the other hand, just has to be himself. When they're making these rules like that, it's not the guys you have to go and talk to about B1. It's them. And the thing is, I think that colorism thing is going to be something we all never get over. Until, of course, we step out, leave the plantation. And even then, we're going to face that when we go abroad. But at the very least, we're in a position to where we might be able to help them out of that. We cannot tell Boomshika and Bonquisha and Sapphire in the U.S. or Canada or the U.K. To get rid of it, because what they're saying to us is don't harbor this. Don't let this be the reason you don't pick us. But they're not saying to themselves, I need to get this out of my own mind. Therein lies the real crux and the real chain that colorism wields over us. The real chain by which it binds us. It ain't us. It's them. It always was. I hope this message has been a benefit. Blackheart, signing black out. Assalamu alaikum and black male power.